Before you go, we'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments and let's see how far this story has reached. Your words connect this growing family of story lovers. And if this tale touched your heart, just wait until you see what's coming next. A brand new chapter, full of love, sacrifice, and second chances, premieres tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single moment. Until then, thank you for being part of our story. She was hired to teach piano but became the heart of a family in crisis. The rain had just begun to fall when Claire Bennett arrived at the edge of the long, winding driveway. Her fingers tightened around the steering wheel as she looked up at the massive house, nestled among towering evergreens on the outskirts of Seattle. It wasn't the kind of home she was used to teaching in, but then again, this wasn't an ordinary job. Claire was a piano teacher, 30 years old, patient, thoughtful, and quietly rebuilding her life after a few too many disappointments. When the agency called with a private request, high pay, full confidentiality, and a 3-month commitment, she almost said no. Until she heard the name of the student, Leo Walker, a 9-year-old boy who hadn't spoken since the loss of his mother. She stepped out of the car, her boots crunching softly against the gravel. The air smelled like cedar and mist. A housekeeper greeted her at the door, then led her through a sleek hallway filled with silence. No portraits, no family photos, just clean lines, glass and stone. It didn't feel like a home, it felt like a secret. Leo was waiting in the music room. He sat on the bench, legs swinging, staring at the keys without touching them. His dark hair hung just over his eyes. Claire smiled softly, not too much, and sat beside him without a word. She placed her fingers on the piano and began to play something simple, an old lullaby her mother used to hum. The notes drifted through the room like a whisper, gentle and unthreatening. Leo didn't move, but his breathing slowed. When the song ended, he looked up, just for a second, but it was enough. They didn't speak. Instead, Claire pulled out a small book of beginner pieces and slid it in front of him. She played the first line, then nodded for him to try. His fingers trembled. He missed every other note. But he played, and for Claire, that was more than enough. Over the next few days, she returned each afternoon, rain or shine. Sometimes Leo would sit beside her, sometimes across the room, but he always listened, and slowly he began to play, clumsy at first, then clearer, more confident. No words, just music. It wasn't until the end of her first week that she noticed the camera in the corner of the room, subtle, almost invisible, but definitely there. Someone was watching, not in a cruel way, more like protecting something fragile. The housekeeper never said much, only that Mr. Walker, Leo's father, was a very private man. Claire hadn't met him, hadn't even heard his voice, but she felt him in the silence of the halls, in the careful order of every room, and in the deep loneliness that clung to his son. She didn't know what kind of man hid behind such high walls, but something told her. She was about to find out. It was nearly midnight when Claire heard the faint creak of the front door. She was sitting alone in the music room, flipping through sheet music, the fireplace casting soft shadows across the floor. Leo had gone to bed hours ago after a quiet but successful lesson. He'd played his first full piece without missing a note. She looked up. Footsteps, measured, steady, approached from the hallway. Then a voice, low, smooth, and unexpectedly gentle. "I wasn't expecting you to stay this late." Claire stood up too quickly, startled. In the doorway stood a man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark wool coat still damp from the rain. His hair was tousled, his eyes a shade of storm grey that matched the sky outside. And just like that, Mr. Walker was no longer a mystery. I was just finishing up," Claire replied, her voice catching slightly. He stepped into the room, eyes scanning the space. "You're Claire, the piano teacher," she nodded. He didn't offer a handshake, didn't smile, but there was something in the way he looked at the piano, the open sheet music, and the worn cushion on the bench, something that said he noticed everything. "I watched the footage," he said, motioning to the corner where the camera was. "Hidden." "You got him to play," Claire hesitated. "He's talented, just guarded. Music gives him a place to feel safe. There was a long pause. Then Mr. Walker walked over to the piano, rested his hand gently on the polished wood. He hasn't spoken in almost a year. Not a word. Not since... He trailed off. The silence that followed said more than words could. "I'm sorry," Claire whispered. "I didn't know." Mr. Walker sat on the bench where Leo had been hours earlier. He used to love music. His mother would sing to him every night. There it was. The crack in the armor. The ghost behind the grey eyes. "I'm not good at this," he confessed. "The parenting, the healing. I thought hiring the best would fix things, but nothing worked. Then you walked in and suddenly there's music in this house again." Claire felt her heart skip. This man, distant, powerful, untouchable, was unraveling right in front of her. "I'm not trying to fix him," she said softly. "I just want him to feel like he matters." He looked up at her then, really looked, and for a moment Claire saw the weight he carried, the loneliness, the fear of doing everything wrong. "I don't usually let people into our world," he said, "but maybe it's time I stop hiding." Claire didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Just stood there, watching the walls around this man slowly start to crack. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, something was just beginning. 2 weeks passed, and something had shifted inside that once silent mansion. Laughter returned, quiet at first, like a fragile song, but growing bolder with each new note Leo played. He didn't speak, not yet, but his eyes sparkled when Claire entered the room. He'd started leaving little drawings on her piano bench, stick figures holding hands, one always wearing a ponytail. Even Ethan Walker, once a ghost in his own home, was becoming someone real. He joined lessons when he could, watched Leo with awe, and sometimes, when no one was looking, smiled in a way that made Claire's heart skip. It almost felt like a family, until the past came knocking. It happened on a Thursday afternoon during Leo's school recital. The gym buzzed with parents and folding chairs and half-tuned violins. Claire stood near the back, clutching her program, her eyes never leaving Leo as he sat quietly on stage, waiting for his turn. Then she felt it. That shift in the air. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up, heels, sharp, deliberate. The scent of designer perfume slicing through the noise. Vanessa Sterling walked in like she owned the room, blonde, breathtaking, and dressed in red that screamed control. She scanned the crowd like it belonged to her. Her eyes locked on Ethan, then slid to Claire, pausing just long enough to sting. "Well, well," she purred, her voice sweet with venom. Ethan Walker, playing house with the... "Help!" Claire stiffened. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Vanessa, you're not supposed to be here." "I'm his mother," she said, brushing an invisible speck from her coat. "And I've decided I want him back." The room faded. Just those words, hanging in the air like smoke. Claire instinctively moved closer to Leo, who hadn't seen her yet. Vanessa's gaze flicked to her again, sharp and calculating. "Relax," she added. "This isn't the courtroom, not yet." She didn't stay long, just long enough to ruin everything. That night, a courier arrived at the mansion, a thick envelope. Inside, a formal custody petition. Vanessa was suing for full parental rights, and she wasn't alone. Rumors spread like wildfire. Paparazzi began camping outside the gate. Tabloids ran headlines with Claire's photo twisted into something it wasn't. "The Nanny and the Billionaire, Scandal in Seattle." Claire stood at the kitchen island, hands trembling as she read the petition. Unfit household, emotional instability, inappropriate attachment to staff. Her name was underlined, twice. Ethan stormed in moments later, coat soaked from the rain, eyes wild. "She's working with my father's old legal team," he said bitterly. "This isn't about Leo, it's about control, about destroying what I've built and taking you down with it." Claire looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "What do we do?" Ethan stared at her. "We fight, but first, we protect him." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, the war for Leo had begun. The rain hadn't stopped in days. It beat steadily against the windows, a constant reminder of the storm brewing outside and inside. Claire stood in the kitchen, clutching a mug of coffee she hadn't sipped in hours. Her hands were cold, despite the fire burning in the next room. Upstairs, Leo was still asleep, unaware his entire world was teetering on the edge. Across the marble island, Ethan paced, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low but sharp. Words like temporary injunction, emergency custody hearing, and media breach floated through the air like threats too big to see. Claire didn't speak. She already knew. Vanessa wasn't bluffing. She'd filed everything, backed by a legal dream team and a strategy built on character assassination. And Claire, she was their easiest target. No legal rights, no power, just the woman who cared too much. When Ethan finally hung up, he didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her, eyes heavy with fear he didn't want to name. "She's serious," Claire said softly. He nodded. "And she's playing dirty. Her lawyers are claiming Leo's in an unstable home, being influenced by unauthorized guardianship. You." Claire's breath hitched. "They're going to try and take him." "Yes," Ethan said, voice barely above a whisper. "And if the media circus keeps growing, we might not be able to stop them." The silence stretched between them like a fault line. Then Ethan stepped forward. "I have a plan. You're not going to like it." Claire straightened. "What is it?" "You take him. Tonight. My lawyer has a private cabin in Oregon. Remote, secure, off-grid. No press, no cameras, no custody papers can reach you there." She stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "You want me to run?" "I want him safe, and I trust you with his life. I'll stay, fight here, clear both our names. But if he's with me, they'll use him. And if he's with you, they'll call it kidnapping, unless we disappear first." Claire's voice cracked. "What if he doesn't understand? What if he thinks I'm taking him away from you?" "Then I'll tell him the truth," Ethan said. "That this is just for now, that I'm coming for him, for you. That we are a family, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep it that way." Tears welled in Claire's eyes. Her throat tightened as she thought of Leo's drawings, stick figures under sunny skies, always holding hands, always together. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, but it was the only way left. She took a shaky breath. "Okay, I'll go. But promise me something." "Anything," he said instantly. "Don't let them win." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he never wanted to let go. "I won't," he whispered. "I swear. I'll bring us home." And as the storm raged outside, Claire began to pack. The cabin in Oregon sat deep in the woods, far beyond the reach of cameras, courtrooms, and chaos. For 2 weeks, Claire and Leo lived in a silence that felt different than before. This one was safe, peaceful, but always, just beneath the surface, was the question neither of them dared ask out loud. When is he coming back? Each night after Leo was asleep, his flashlight tucked under the blankets, his favorite bear curled in his arms, Claire sat by the window, staring out at the dark forest. She listened to the wind, hoping it might carry a voice she missed more than she could admit. Then one night the phone rang. Not her cell. That had been off for days. This was the encrypted landline Ethan's legal team had set up. It rang only once. She answered with a breathless hello. His voice came through, hoarse, tired, but alive. "It's over." Claire froze. Vanessa's case collapsed. The court rejected the custody claim. Her blackmail trail was traced and exposed. The media turned on her. "The board reinstated me this morning." She pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears welled instantly. "So, we're safe." "We're safe," he confirmed. "I'm on my way. I'll be there by sunset." The next hours were a blur of joy and disbelief. Claire cleaned every corner of the cabin, twice. She baked cookies Leo insisted on decorating. They made a hand-drawn sign that said, "Welcome home, Daddy," taped crookedly to the front door. At 6:14 p.m., the sound of tires crunching gravel echoed through the trees. Leo ran before Claire could stop him. His small feet pounded the porch steps as a black SUV came to a slow, careful stop. The door opened, and there he was. Ethan stepped out in jeans and a grey Henley, no suit, no armor, just him. Real, present, free. "Daddy!" Leo shouted, launching himself forward. Ethan caught him with ease, holding him tight, burying his face in his son's hair. "I missed you, buddy," he whispered. So much. When his eyes found Claire's across the porch, he didn't hesitate. Still holding Leo, he walked to her. No words, just a kiss. Soft, certain, full of everything they'd survived. "I told you I'd come back," he murmured. She smiled through tears. "You did. You kept your promise." That night, the three of them curled up on the couch, tangled, in blankets, eating cookies and watching cartoons. No paparazzi, no court battles, no shadows, just warmth, just love. Later, as Leo slept between them, Claire turned to Ethan. "What now?" He brushed a lock of hair from her face. "Now we go. Home. No more hiding. Let them talk. We're not a scandal. We're a family." She laid her head on his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat, steady, strong, and finally at peace. They had weathered the storm. Now, it was time to live in the light. If this story moved you, if you felt the weight of sacrifice, the power of quiet love, and the courage it takes to protect what matters most, we want to hear from you. What would you have done in Claire's place? Could you walk away from the person you love to keep a child safe? And what about Ethan? Did he make the right choice by stepping back from everything to fight for his family? Tell us in the comments, which moment hit you the hardest? Was it the silence in the cabin, the phone call that changed everything, or the moment they were finally reunited under the trees? And one more thing, let us know where you're watching from. Whether it's a quiet town, a bustling city, or somewhere in between, your words help us see how far these stories reach. We read every single comment, and your voice matters here. Tomorrow, a brand new story begins, one filled with love, secrets, and second chances. So don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell, and join us for the next unforgettable chapter. You're not just watching a story, you're part of it.